The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 189.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Graham Allcott, author of How to Be a Productivity Ninja. Worry less, achieve more, and love what you do. Welcome, Graham, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Before we dive into your book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja, will you take just a moment to introduce yourself? Tell us just a little bit about you personally.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Brighton on the south coast of England. I run a company called Think Productive, and I'm the author of this book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja. For the last few years, I've been involved in productivity training and coaching with some of the biggest companies in the UK and increasingly around the world. And my company has a base in the US and also in Canada, Netherlands, and now Australia as well, which is very exciting. So at the moment, my life is traveling the world and being the evangelist for Productivity Ninja.
It sounds like a ton of fun, and thank you for sharing that. So now let's jump right into your book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja, which was made available for purchase in the UK back January 2014, and in the US right. it's I guess still coming. May of 2015 is when we'll see it here in the United States. And Graham, we're going to move quickly, but our whole goal here today is to cover the top questions that our future or our listener and future reader would like to get answered. And the first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing How to Be a Productivity Ninja?
So really, the inspiration for me was my own journey with productivity. So I used to be chief executive of a charity here in the UK, a big NGO. And what happened was I went freelance. And when I went freelance, I realized that I no longer had a team of people around me and an assistant and people who, when I sat at my desk and had a great idea, would go off and get that stuff done. And I went freelance, so I was on my own as a consultant and suddenly went, wow, I have a problem. And the problem for me was being that completer finisher type of person. So the person who can really delve into the detail, tick everything off, and really make all that kind of stuff happen. Like my natural style is I'm a very big picture thinker. I'm quite creative, think very strategically, but also that means I'm often not hands-on with the detail. And I realized that I had a problem, and I really needed to develop my own skills. So I started reading lots of different books and blogs and experimenting with different systems, and really starting to just to develop my own take really on just the whole topic of productivity. And my company, Think Productive, came about completely by accident. So it was actually just me talking about productivity from a point of view of, okay, I feel like I'm starting to grasp this and I feel like I'm starting to solve this. And I fell into teaching other people about it because I think I'm a big believer in the things that you struggle to learn yourself are the things that you should teach to other people. Because I think, you have a grasp of what some of those challenges will be. And people who are naturally organized and from day one just really get how to do this kind of stuff. They just go, well, you just do it. And they don't see that, not everyone has that style. So, really the inspiration behind the book was capturing the stuff that we teach on workshops and really capturing my journey from being a creative, strategic flake to being a productivity ninja, really. And that was kind of how it all started.
Excellent. So over the last couple of years, there's been so many books that have come out on productivity. So this next question, I think, is extremely important on helping, separate yours from the crowd. And that's what makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic.
So because I got into this by reading all the different books, and I think there's some really fantastic books out there on productivity. But I think for me, what I found with all of them was they start with all with the same premise, which is the author saying, I'm a guru, I'm great at this stuff, I'm perfect at this stuff, and if only you could be nearly as perfect as me, it would be great. And I think that sort of guru mentality just didn't chime with me. I found it very alienating when I read some of those other books. And so I start from a very different perspective with my book, which is, a product can have great tools and get really weapon savvy and all these kind of things, but you're still a human being. And that means you still screw up. And it means you shouldn't try and be perfect. And you should just stop beating yourself up by this whole notion of striving for perfection. So, my book's very real, hands-on. There's some some nice kind of top line stuff in there, but really it delves a lot into the practicality of, okay, if you're on Outlook, open Outlook and do it like this. If you're on Gmail, do it like this. So it really kind of gets into that nitty gritty, and just starts from this perspective of, it doesn't take a lot to do the simple things well, and from saying, let's all try and be perfect.
Graham, how did you design the book? Did you write it so that, here's a better question. How do you suggest the reader engage with your book? Is this a book that you really designed to be read from front to back, or did you design it so they can jump in and jump out, cherry picking information based on what they need now?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. So I kind of originally wrote it in a way that isn't from start to finish, and it builds up, quite well in terms of it has some of the theoretical stuff and some of the thinking about stress and stuff like that, quite sort of heavily up front. So you get into the right mindset, and then it goes through email, and then it goes through to-do lists and project lists and stuff like that, and finishes up on the kind of higher level with, project management, meetings, and momentum and procrastination. So it's kind of designed as a start to finish thing. But like the other thing about the book is there's a lot of the nicks and little exercises and little summary bits that you can pick out. So what I tend to find is that a lot of people do read it start to finish, but a lot of people do pick in and out. And the other thing that a lot of people do is just go straight to, there's a chapter in the book called Ninja Email, and it's all about how to get your inbox to zero. And one of the pieces of feedback I get is that people just buy the book and go straight to that, read it, implement it, and then start all the rest of the book from there. And that's fine too. I think a lot of these things work as standalone things as well.
Excellent. So Graham, we're to my favorite part of the entire interview, and that's where I'm going to hand over the mic to you. But I'm going to ask, now that we know the purpose, the background behind the book, I'd really like to take a deep dive and ask you to take the next 5 to 8 minutes and really let the future reader know exactly what they can get out of your book. So will you do that for us?
Sure, will do. Hello, future reader. let's get started. So, so the first chapter is all about developing a mindset of a ninja to use in your productivity. So we talk firstly about Zen-like calm. This notion of living in the present moment, not beating yourself up about what you didn't do well yesterday or worrying about what you've got to do tomorrow. And people's best work happens when they're present and in the moment, and really getting into what psychologists call flow. That kind of state of focus that really builds momentum and really helps you with your work. So we talk about Zen-like calm. We talk about being ruthless. So ruthless with yourself, ruthless with others, and really ruthless with decisions, and really starting to think about the choices that you make. Being weapon savvy, so the whole thing about using tech and using tools really well, but not getting distracted by that. Stealth and camouflage, so everything from kind of tactical hiding to getting out of the office if you really need to focus, and you're in one of those kind of open plan offices, which I think are just terrible for productivity. Unorthodox, doing things differently, taking inspiration from different places. Agility, so things like recovery, task selection, and just kind of keeping light on your feet. We talk about mindfulness in a couple of different ways. So meditation is a huge, I think it's a hugely underrated productivity tool. I think the world's starting to wake up to that, but I think it's an absolutely huge thing. Preparedness, so just the whole mindset of doing something in 3 or 4 minutes now, and doing it in a way that preps you first, rather than having 20 minutes scrabbling around later in a panic just before a deadline or just before you need that piece of information or whatever. The whole idea of being human and not superhero, and just not striving for perfection. So those are like the 9 characteristics that we have of the productivity ninja. And so the book starts with a lot of that stuff to just really get people in the right mindset. Like I kind of feel like bigger than any systems and bigger than any tools that you use and any apps or anything like that is just having that mindset right, having the approach to your work right. So we really kind of start with that, and then we get into what I call the core productivity model. So there's basically 4 elements: capturing, collecting information, organizing, reviewing, and then the psychology of doing. So I'll just talk about those 4 really briefly. So capture and collect is, very influenced by the David Allen getting things done kind of methodology. So getting ideas out of your head and really focusing on getting that into what I call the second brain. So starting to have a way that you can store all of that information. And I think so much of what nags us, so many of the things that people really struggle with in terms of the work is just that inner monologue and the stuff that's going on in your head the whole time. So the first thing is just making sure you just get all of that information out of your head and in front of you so that you can control it in one way or another. So having everything written down, having everything on an Excel document, having everything in an app, wherever you want to do it, so when we do workshops with finance people, they always go straight to Excel because it's like, this is the tool I know how to, just getting it in a place that you can control it. Second phase is organize. So I just ask a series of questions, and there's a little diagram in there that helps you to ask some of those questions. And for me, the sort of key bit of that is it's kind of twofold, really. So having a good set of lists. My big thing is to have a big overarching master to-do list, and then have an overarching project list. And the real kind of power for me then comes from checklists. So having a couple of different checklists that when you get onto review, then you start to use those checklists. So one of them is daily and the other one is weekly. So the review part is firstly a daily thing. Myself a series of different questions every morning. So the first one is always, what's my energy like? And I think that's always for me the most sort of powerful way that you can start to allocate tasks. So I think about attention in three ways. So you have active attention, which is just kind of your normal day-to-day. I can do most things, but I can't do the stuff that's really. Then you have inactive attention, which is the time where it's like, just after a lunch, or Friday afternoon is a really classic one. Probably really early Monday morning when you're still a bit bleary-eyed. Those kind of times. Inactive attention, you can't do the stuff that's really kind of simple and straightforward. And then here's the key, here's the big one, proactive attention. My argument is that you have 2 to 3 hours maximum of proactive attention every day. So this is the real kind of top level energy, top level of attention, where you can really focus on everything on your list, even. And then really I think one of the biggest tricks around not just manage, don't try and manage time, manage attention, but actually try and manage your proactive attention. So make sure that really precious resource is not frittered away on emails, in meetings, and the stuff that you could be doing at other times of the day. So the way that works practically for me is I tend to start my day from my home office at the bottom of my garden, where it's just me, and I can really, really focus for those sort of key 2 or 3 hours in the morning, which is generally where I have my proactive attention. So the idea of reviewing is really to make sure that works on a daily basis. And you're really asking yourself good questions about your energy. You're asking yourself good questions about dependencies, who else needs to be involved with things. And then the final part of the cord model, so we've done capture and collect and organize and review, is do, and I think this is actually where I found there's a lot of books don't really get in. So you have lots of stuff about, systems and being organized and, how to write to-do lists and stuff. But then what if you know everything that you could possibly do, but you're still in fear, or you're still stuck, or you're still, even though you know what you need to do, you just can't find, the willpower or the momentum to get something started. So I talk about a whole bunch of stuff in there, different ways to create momentum, different ways to trick your brain, different ways to recognize where some of those inner monologues come from. I think the whole issue of procrastination is actually 3 or 4 different issues. It's kind of things being undefined, things being really tedious that you're avoiding because you're lazy and you don't want to do them. By the way, we're all lazy, so that's another thing to say. So there's a whole load of different stuff happening behind the scenes of procrastination. And so I really just talk about, some of the different ways that you can approach that, and particularly to self-identify, what some of those issues might be. So yeah, that's the main part of the book. And then there's obviously a whole load of other stuff. There's the email chapter I talked about, which is really, how to keep your inbox at zero and different ways to think about things like archiving. And then there's chapters on project management and on meetings and all of that. But I would say the real kind of key sort of thinking process, if you like, for the whole book is those 4 elements: capture and collect, organize, review, and do.
So Graham, of those 4, I guess if the reader could only, this is the next question, is kind of taking a deeper dive into it. But if the reader could only take away one concept, principle, or action out of your entire book, everything you just discussed with us, what would you personally want that to be?
One thing, but in 2 forms. So don't manage time, manage attention. And then, okay, what does that mean practically? What that means is look at the hours in the day that you have proactive attention, the hours in the day where you have the 2 or 3 hours where you're on absolute top form. Schedule your tasks according to that. So you're looking at your kind of big rock, difficult things to do. Discipline to say, right, I know that I'm on top form, let's do that stuff now. And then being kind to yourself at the other end of that. So when you're really feeling frazzled, save up the low value emails to do when time manage attention would be my top thing.
So Graham, do you have a favorite quote from your book? And will you take it a second to kind of dive into it and tell us what it means to you?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple. One would be at the beginning of the book, I say time management is dead. And the other one is something I mentioned in the Ninja, the start book, where I talk about a ninja is not a superhero, but they often appear so. And what that means to me is I think you can have really great systems. You can be really aware of how you use tools. You can be really in the moment in the way, and mindful in the way that you live your life and the way you structure your day and approach your work. But even though all of those things might be going in your favor, you're still going to have mistakes. You're still going to screw up sometimes. You're still going to have fear. You're still going to procrastinate. You're still going to have problems left, right, and center in the way you do things. And so even though on the outside, someone else might look at you and say, this person's really got productivity mapped out and really seems to be on the ball and know what they're doing. There's always input, I think. So that's kind of what it means to me. And I think it's, it's part of my kind of ongoing dialogue in workshops. And, as I sort of travel around the world and talk to people about productivity, one of the things that really seems to resonate is this idea of what would it mean to be more human at work? And I think the reason that resonates is because people want to put up this superhero facade, especially if their prospects of getting promotion or impressing a client in certain circumstances, the client thinking that you're some kind of amazing superhuman being that has special powers. But I just think ultimately no one does. And I think it's much better to start with let's discuss your failings and foibles and vulnerabilities. Once people start to communicate in a much more human and vulnerable way at work, I think real magic happens from that, because I think people really start to collaborate in much deeper senses.
So Graham, thank you for taking us through your book. And this next question gets away from your book just for a second, but it's really, we're looking for the book recommendation. So if there's only one book you could recommend based on the way it's impacted your life, maybe created a paradigm shift or a lifestyle shift, what book would you suggest to our audience?
Yeah, so I've been really heavily influenced with my stuff from David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. I think that really mapped it out for me. But I would say a couple of other things. One is, I think his book, Making It All Work, is actually better. So if I was going to recommend one, I'd actually say Making It All Work rather than Getting Things Done. And the other one, if I can just squeeze another one in, because I really love this stuff, is Seth Godin's book, Linchpin. I think is just a really fascinating and very emotionally engaging view of productivity, and I really love that. There you go, cheating. I'm putting 2 or 3 in there.
No, I appreciate it, and that's the first time someone's referenced that second one from David Allen. So I appreciate you bringing that one up. And Graham, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to not only get more information on you, but also get more information on your book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja?
Sure. So the book's available in every good bookstore and all that kind of stuff, and it's on Amazon and so on. You can find more about me and about Think Productive. We're just at thinkproductive.com. And then I'm on Twitter as well. It's just both spells and 2 T's.
Excellent. Well, Graham, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book with us.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Graham or his book, How to Be a Productivity Ninja, check out the show notes at theelpodcast.com.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to theelpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's theelpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.